Hey guys, this is Nathan and welcome to the Gaming 4. Today in this Unturned map review, we're going to be covering a map called Overgrown 3+. Now there's a couple special things about this map, besides the fact that it did get a really good score, and it had 5 stars on the Steam market. Before we actually get into how well the map did, I just want to mention quickly that this map was advertised to be 4 times larger than the original one. I think that's where the plus comes from. And it actually did affect how the map actually worked, and you'll probably see as we get into it. So let's start by actually looking at what made this map so good. The first thing I want to mention is that the overall theme of the map was really interesting. It had a very broken down, overgrown sort of feel, as sort of mentioned by the title of the map, and even though it is kind of typical, there are a lot of other maps with this theme, this map pulled it off really well, and there was a lot of detail that actually went into keeping the theme consistent throughout the map. Something else that was really nice about the map as well is that the detail was pretty phenomenal actually. It was very consistently detailed everywhere, and the detailing quality almost everywhere was very good, and some areas were fantastic even. So there's obviously a ton of work that was put into this map, and something that actually probably helped is that the map maker started with a smaller map and then upgraded it. So about a quarter of his map was already made, and all he had to do was work on the extra area that was added by moving it from a medium size to a larger size. In terms of the landscape of the map, it was actually very well done. It was very beautiful looking, and the dev kit was obviously used to make it because there were some really nice transitions that can only be done in the dev kit between the different biomes within the map itself. Another thing that was really nice about the map in terms of the survival side is that the map maker included all types of vehicles, and of course because this is a large map, it's almost necessary to have vehicles in order to cross it all. In terms of food and clothing, this map actually did pretty good. It was kind of localized to certain spawn areas that really had most of the food and clothing, but it definitely provided you with enough to get started with survival. And as you move throughout the map, there is actually quite a lot of good loot in terms of crafting material and high level gear, and there are quite a few high tier zones to work towards, including dead zones, some Easter egg sort of locations, and military bases that are just full of zombies. Something I want to mention specifically about this map that some other maps have had trouble with is that when you get into some of those high tier zones and you do find a mega zombie and you manage to kill it, in some maps it's not really worth it compared to how much materials and effort goes into actually killing the mega zombie, but in Overgrown 3+, it's actually really worth it to kill the mega zombie because some of the drops you get are pretty legendary and very hard to get normally. Alright, so that's pretty much it for the strengths of this map, so let's start going over some of the weaknesses and how this map could have been improved. So the first issue I want to talk about is very serious actually, and it has to do with the origin of the map and how it was expanded from a medium size to a large size. Now when the author did this, he didn't do it perfectly, and because of this, the objects and the landscape itself is desynced or sort of off from the original. Also, a lot of the spawns and the zombie spawns themselves and the navigation that was originally there is also off. Now obviously if the map maker did this correctly, for example if he followed my video, he wouldn't be having these issues, but for some reason he must have gotten off just a little bit and didn't catch it until he was too far into the map, or really just didn't even notice that he had done it in the first place. So you may have noticed it, or maybe have seen some of it in the footage that's been playing in the background, but throughout the map, especially in the center, the area that was previously the smaller version of the map is actually sunken into the ground or is too far up in the air. So for example, some houses will be maybe a foot off the ground where normally they shouldn't be that high, or some are even sunken into the ground so the dirt is on the floor. In the same way, some zombies walk with their legs partially in the ground, and some zombies are also walking in the air because the navigation was not rebaked. And lastly, probably one of the biggest issues is because the objects and the landscape are a little bit desynced from each other, there are actually some areas in the map where you can fall underneath, and then once you're down there you pretty much can't do anything to get out, and you pretty much just lose your progress in that survival. In fact, one of the spawn zones is actually desynced enough to where as soon as you spawn, you fall through the map. So obviously this is a huge problem with the map, and I'm not sure what can be done to actually fix it at this point. The map has been out for a while, and obviously a lot of work was put into the rest of the map, so somehow if the author is able to fix this, maybe go through and manually change some things to make it work better, that would be great. And in the meantime, just be aware that if you fall through the map, it's not uncommon, and there's really nothing you can do about it. So besides that, there were a few other issues with the map, not as major as that, but I just wanted to get that one out of the way. So another thing that was kind of an issue is that in some areas of the map, food and clothing spawns were non-existent, mostly in the higher tier areas, and as map makers, you might think, well, you don't need those basic types of items in the higher tier areas of the map, but it's really helpful to have them even in those spaces, because as the players travel around, they may need those basic types of objects just to sort of rebuild themselves, maybe get an extra supply of food, or maybe just some extra rags. Another thing that could have been a little bit improved with this map is that some of the areas were definitely too hard, especially for a single player survival, and they're a little bit too hard for a few main reasons. First of all, there are a ton of zombie spawns in those areas, and I don't really mind a challenge in terms of the amount of zombies to kill, but in order to kill that many zombies you need the proper gear. So one thing that we did have trouble finding when raiding the map is some higher tier weapons, including automatics and plenty of ammo for them. Now I do agree that snipers and marksman rifles are very useful in some situations, but when taking on hordes of zombies it's really not enough because they reload too often and they really don't have enough firepower. So it would have been a little bit nicer to see some more automatics and definitely some ammunition crates so that when you do find enough clips for them you can refill them as you need to. The last issue with the map that we found that really could have been fixed pretty easily is that there were not that many car maintenance items. One of the main ones that we were missing was a blowtorch. Obviously this is very important to maintain a car, especially if you want to keep it around a long time and maybe add some things onto it to make it a little bit better. And as a map maker it's very important to include these things, especially for a large map, because vehicles are sort of the lifeblood of raiding in that type of map in that size. So maintaining your vehicles such as gas cans, blowtorches, car jacks is really important to survival and is very valuable as well. Alright guys, so that's pretty much it for this map review. Obviously if you like the map I've got the link down in the description below. Hopefully you guys will check it out. It doesn't really need much more support. It's got 5 stars on the Steam Workshop already and it's got a ton of views, but if you haven't seen it already it's probably worth checking it out. Anyway guys, thank you so much for watching. Please like the video if you enjoyed it and please subscribe if you want to see some more. I will see you all later.